Yo, what's going on? It's the NOC, the Nerds of Color. And we are back with another ShoPowSho. It's your boy, Kuya P, aka patrick.strange, the Adobro, the Babinka boy, the leader of the Hala Hala homies in the Cinna gang of the NOC. Tonight, unfortunately, the amazing Ates couldn't be here. Kataphorric is over in Japan doing her education thing. That was her dream, to go over to Japan and finally teach. So she's there. We're just waiting for her to get out of quarantine and then figure out her schedule. And then we'll have her back. And of course, Viva Valentina with the Stuffy Spa, just insanely busy, fulfilling everybody's dreams out there, because she takes your precious loved stuffed dolls and she brings it back to what you remember as a child. So a lot of work there, but when she has a moment, she will be back as well. And today, our special guest is a returning guest. I'm excited to have this amazing actor, filmmaker, entertainer, teacher, as I started to learn a little bit more on my own, producer, and he's kind of hitting us all the way up again from the Philippines, the amazing Jake Macapagal. We had him on with Randall Comrade to talk about The Monsters Without, and I got to look in a little bit more about some of his past work since our last conversation, and so I'm super excited to have him return, give us a little bit more, tell his story, and we're gonna celebrate him, y'all, because that's what we do here. We show love and light to our amazing kababayan. So let me bring him up on the screen. Let's have some fun. I'm gonna shoot off the air horns. Jake, you can unmute. And again, I'm shooting off air horns. It's in post, so I don't deafen you. But again, super excited. Welcome back, Jake.
Hello. Yes, how are you?
I'm good, my friend, especially to see your face again.
Yeah, you know what? It's mirror on the wall. What you see is what you know.
How have you been, man? The Monsters Without, since our last convo. You are doing a little bit of the festival circuit a little bit, along with Dogs and Georgina. How's everything been?
Yeah, it's been like a roller coaster. It was great that I was able to push myself and being invited by the director Randall to join him for the premiere of The Monsters Without in LA, and to experience the Los Angeles Asian Pacific Film Festival on its 37th year. That's my first time to experience it. It was, in a nutshell, at the very end of the festival, all the Filipino community, the Asian American community came together in Thunderbolt in LA and had a fantastic get together. People were relaxed. I think one thing that I really experienced was that, because I was seeing it from a different perspective, I really don't live in LA. So people were celebrating each other quietly. It's a very nuanced thing. Nobody was overbearing. Nobody was like, let's just call it unshowbiz get together. I can see that, there's a lot of respect for the other filmmakers as well, coming around and giving love within each other and support. And I took that experience and brought that back home. It was very inspiring to be with the filmmakers in LA, just giving their spirit and giving their love together.
That's beautiful.
It's amazing. Yeah,
I love it. That's great, man. I'm so happy you had a great experience. So
yeah. I mean, sometimes, I've experienced, well, I'm fortunate to be able to experience a lot of film festivals, and the bigger the festival, the better it's a little bit more detached. One extreme festival that I've experienced was coming to the BAFTAs, and our film Metro Manila was nominated as nominated as film not in the English language category. Very strange category, but anyway, we were very happy to be nominated there. So you're talking about being surrounded by Oprah Winfrey, Leonardo DiCaprio, but you see, it was an amazing experience being surrounded by the world superpower, I guess. But you won't be able to say anything or even say hi, because it feels a little bit detached. Maybe because people were a little bit more reserved, and there are a lot of security guards anywhere, and people are pushing you around to get from A to B. But you see, a smaller festival is a little bit more familiar because
Yeah.
it's family style,
Yeah.
people have time to chat, to get to know, and really support each other's film. And I really appreciate the organizers of the LA Asian Pacific Festival. It was they're very, very warm and very welcoming.
Awesome. And it can be energizing, I would say. When it's
Very, because
smaller and more intimate, you can get
yeah,
that one-on-one.
it's better. I mean, you get the chance to really breathe.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're in a high-powered environment, there's really no. It's an eye candy, and there's a lot of energy there, and people want to be seen. People want, people are the press are there. It could be daunting,
Yeah.
but I'm just putting it in comparison. Both festivals are celebrating films,
Okay.
and I love the industry, but that's my own experience.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I feel very much the same way. I've been in both kind of arenas, and
Mm.
there's something to be said though when it's smaller, more intimate, and then you could like get that interaction a little bit. But then yeah, then there's you feel like a star when you're at the BAFTAs. Obviously, it's the BAFTAs. So I completely understand. I'm
I
with
don't know
you.
if I felt like a star. I think my experience with that is really just looking at them, and I said, okay, well, I'm one of them. I have a seat at the table.
Yeah.
Isn't
Yeah.
that amazing?
Yeah.
It's not, and I get some people asking me from the press from the Philippines, asking me, who did you see? Did you
Yeah.
take photos of this person? Did you take? I said, uh, no,
Yeah.
I'm not being cocky about that, except that because this is the first time I'm gonna, get my seat on the table. I mean, I'm one of them.
Yeah.
It's I don't feel like I don't. That's a great thing if you're going to be in the industry, is really not thinking of yourself as such,
Yeah.
because at the same time you won't be so you won't put anybody in the pedestal. You don't put yourself on a pedestal, and then you don't put anybody on the pedestal. You're all on equal grounds.
Yes. I love that. Exactly. That
Yeah.
and that's what we're gonna do here. That and why we tell our stories on ShoPowSho is we all come, we're not a monolith. There's different ways we get to where we're at. And it's gonna help people be seen. Like I'm a nerd, if you're a nerd, we're this, or it's we're all one, we're all the same, and I love it, and I thank you for sharing, Jake, that experience, because many people feel a certain way in these different environments, and that'll and they'll feel, should I have felt that way? So I love that you shared that. So let's get into the story of the amazing Jake Macapagal. That wasn't exactly birth name Jake Macapagal, as I see from your IMDb.
Yeah. In the in the Philippines, I mean, especially if you're born, I mean, I think especially if the guys who were the kids who were born in the 60s, they always have a birth name, and
Yeah,
then they have a nickname. So
exactly.
it could be Maria Teresa and Marites, which is very simple, but my parents were a little bit more complicated. So they wanted to call me Romano, and
Uh,
then my nickname will be Jake. And
yeah.
people will ask me how that related. I have no idea.
I love it. I love it. All right, so let's get into your story, my friend. Let's take it back to the beginning. And since the Ates aren't here to kick it off, the initial question we kind of start off with is basically is a play off of like the stereotype question that a lot of films get, or just when any immigrants come here, where are you from? But no, where are your parents from? But I kind of want to intermix that with showing love to the ancestors, because I like to, once Tina asked that question, I'd like to show love and light before we get into your story. To me, as beings, we are manifestations of those that came before, their hopes and their dreams. So I like to show love and light to, like, if you want to tell a little bit about your mother and father's story, or even your grandpa, the ancestors that came before, and then auntie or uncle, to just see if some of what they had manifested into you, like if any of them were into the arts or anything like that in at all, or just something beautiful that we can share from those that came before that, to just bring them into your story before we tell your story.
Okay, this is the first time I'm going to speak about this in public. I'm going to make it short because this could be really, really long. But I've always wanted to understand where the etymology of the Macapagal last name. And as you know, there are two prominent Macapagals who are connected to politics in the Philippines. And as I was growing up, people ask me if I'm related to the Macapagals who are politicians. So, but the way I understand is the Macapagal is really not a last name. It's one of those last first names that were retained from before the Spaniards. You mean if you are to retrace the Macapagal, my Macapagal ancestry, the Macapagals who were very prominent are from Tondo, Metro Manila. But there is some sort of migration that happened there. I mean, there are a lot of Macapagals in the world and in the Philippines. So the way, and I please correct me if I'm wrong if you're listening to this, but the way I understand of migration is that a lot of people came from the north. So you're talking about maybe Pampanga, Nueva Ecija, to Bulacan, to uh, Tondo. And then, so you can see and retrace how the migration happened, that these are merchants. And by the time they got to the Macapagal or there's, okay, let me, there are, okay, I'm going to go back to there. Macapagal is you can trace what it means. It probably means somebody who's, there are Filipino names like Makaraeg, Makatapang, Makatangay. So these are like descriptions or adjectives of a trait of a person. And Macapagal, I don't know, I forgot it at this point, but they've arrived in Tondo and they've become prominent in Tondo. And that's how I understand how my family name came to be. But as far as knowing my great-grandparents, I know there were simple folks working in the market. My great-grandmother, I heard, had the bayong. She would go to the local market and then she leaves in the morning with an empty bayong. By the time it's lunchtime, that bayong or that bag of woven leaves will be full of Philippine peso, and that will be their earnings for the day and to be shared with the family. That's Maxima, and then my great grandfather is Juan, and then my grandfather is Bayani, who is a doctor, and then my Bayani married Soledad, who is from Cavite, and then they had a child who is my father, who is Rodolfo, who has three siblings, so another boy and two aunts that I have. And I was born in Quezon City with four siblings, with Rodolfo, my father, and my mom, Rosalie. So all of us are Rodolfo, Rosalie, Romano, Roberto, Rodolfo Jr., Romel, Rodolfo the third, Roberto. Yes. So that's it. And I grew up in Bonifacio, Quezon City, in the 60s and into the 70s. And we moved to my grandmother's house in the 80s, 90s. Then I left. I said, I'm not going to ask money from my parents so I could decide to decide whatever I want to live my life. Because if I start to depend on my family, which is very normal in the Philippines, they're going to tell me what to do with my life. And since I was very adventurous from the 16 years old, I said, I will find my way around here. And it brought me to this place.
All right, so let's take a pause there because we went lightning storm, and I want to get to that journey. I love this though, and thank you for sharing and giving love and light to your amazing family that came before. And we'll dive now into this experience. So, what would your parents tell us? So, when you came into the picture, other siblings at the time when you came
Well, I was first,
first? Okay.
so in between me will be after every 2 years and one, there'll be a brother. There'll be four brothers by the end of 1980,
Okay.
1970 or something.
All right. So you're the eldest. All
My
right. So
numbers are always wrong, but I know that they come after every other year.
okay. So let's talk about growing up. You born in Quezon City, you said?
Yes, in Mauban, Quezon City. Well, in A Bonifacio Avenue.
Okay.
That's in A Bonifacio Avenue. It's in between the North Cemetery and between Manila and Quezon City.
So
But
let's talk about growing up then in as a young kid before you before we get to high school. Let's talk. What would your parents tell me about and aunties, uncles tell me about a young Jake? What were you into as a kid before
well,
your
I mean, I was the first grandchild, and
uh,
there was always a struggle between where I was going to spend my day because my grandmother was very excited to have me. So in between my parents' house, my grandmother would always ask me to come to a couple of maybe 8 blocks down to where she lives. So there was always a pull between my mother and my grandmother. And I was a lawless boy. My aunts were very my aunts who migrated in the 70s. I grew up with them and they taught me how to perform because I was the first child. So they would always say, "Come on, Jake, dance." And I would like perform with them. I would sing Puff the Magic Dragon with my Tita Ellen. My Tita Ellen lives in Brooklyn now. She's been there since 70. She came as a pharmacist. And my other aunt, Tita Bobby, also migrated to the US when in the 70s. She was a nurse at the Mount Sinai. And they raised their children there. I grew up being filled with love because I knew that I was the first. Everybody was
yeah.
excited, and then, and then I was into performing. I mean, in the 60s and the 70s, kids would just get out of the streets, and we would play pico and habulan, hide and seek, and get rough on the talahib, which is around, I had that kind of childhood. And, I was also integrated with the people who were living in squatters because, in Quezon City, it's divided with people. My grandfather was a doctor, and my father had a diesel injection pump business. So, but a couple of houses down is a looban. Looban is a group of squatters who live right with us and live with us. And so I played with people who were going to school. Everybody was going to school, but people who were less fortunate, and I played with people who were also living in our street. But
Yeah.
it's all integrated.
Yeah.
We get our afternoon siesta, and then by 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock, we get out on the street and play patintero, and it's integrated. So I had that kind of childhood, even though I was going to private school and they were, going to public school. It didn't matter.
Yeah.
I had there was no distinction because it wasn't planted in my head.
Yeah. So
And
as you were saying, like the aunties, the titas had you kind of getting already into the arts at a very young age. That was kind of like the start. And then playing with friends kind of increased it more. But then because of just the class differences, as a young kid, you also gained a new perspective.
I guess I didn't really know what the class, the private school education gave me the idea that there was class differences. But when I was playing on the street, there was no difference I was just playing with kids and then the people around there. Um, but they were very my Lola, who's a very active in church, was also, she loves to dance and sing. So that was part of my childhood. And then she made me perform amongst her friends when there's a party, and I would dance my effing dance wherever, the disco dance every time. And so, I mean, at the same time, when I was in the private school, there was an activity club that you choose, and I was really, really geared to the first play I had. The first play that I've watched was when I was in grade 3, which was in Ateneo, and it was Bernardo Carpio, and I saw the guy singing. I just remembered vividly that somebody was singing on stage with lights on, and I said, "Wow, that's the world I want to be in. I want to be
That's where
that."
the bug hit the act.
Yes, I saw him perform, and he was singing, and I was so attracted to that light. I was blinded with kind of that light. I wanted, how it is when you're a kid. Maybe it was fascinating because I was watching him live, and I said, "I'm gonna do that." So once I stepped in grade 4, I joined the Ateneo Children's Theater. And I got my first role as Fire. Fire.
Yeah.
And I was moving my body, and I said, "Wow, I didn't know that I could be Fire." And I thought, my director was very happy because probably I was giving it 110%. And he said, "You're very good, Jake." And I said, "Oh, I was addicted to that compliment." And I continued with the ACT, Ateneo Children's Theater, until I bagged Captain Hook. I auditioned for Peter Pan, and I bagged the role of Captain Hook when I was in grade singing in the musical Peter Pan. And I thought that was an achievement for me, the biggest achievement when I was a kid. More than anything, I thought, "Wow, I've arrived. I've gotten the Captain Hook role." I didn't know, that life was such a bubble.
Yeah.
You think that was the world, and then when I stepped out and I auditioned to the real stuff, which is, Repertory Philippines, or anything where there's theater outside my school, I had to audition, and people ridiculed me. I mean, people laughed at me because I didn't know. I was like 12 and 13. Yeah. But I was finding my way,
What was the hard thing for you? What do you think was the difficulty?
Well, I think the difficulty is that, come on, when you're 12 years old, you're 13, you think that was the world, that was it. It was a fantasy. You go to a private school, you go home, everything's provided for you. But then you go to the real world, then you deal with other kids, and some kids are more affluent than you or more fluent in English than you. And, in the Philippines, in that culture, if you don't know how to speak in English, especially in Repertory Philippines, that's like that's where you get your training if you want to be in theater, if you want to speak fluent English, or you want to be able to join Shakespeare, or like, the American plays and all that. And I auditioned for the role for something, and I just remember because my mom was cheering on me, and then I sang my Captain Hook song, and after I sang, I saw my mom cringe, and I ran out of the stage, and I said, "Boy, that was a bad audition." But I tried it. I mean, I wanted to be a part of something that was bigger than myself. Yeah. And I realized that there was a bigger world, a more cruel world. Not cruel, but the world has standards, I have to be in that form to be able to be accepted in such groups.
Yeah.
And that was just my, but a narrow mind, young kid trying to get into the established theater groups in the country.
Since we're in that moment, and you, as you said, your mom saw you saw that and kind of you felt away and everything. What would what how did they feel about the arts? Because as a lot of Filipinos, especially us Philams here in the U.S., is arts in creative fields, that's okay as a hobby, but it's not what they want us to do professionally. We get pushed accountant, engineer, doctor, lawyer. Um, how did your parents feel about that for you as a career? Uh,
I think my dad was a good example because we come from a family of doctors.
yeah,
But my dad wasn't a doctor, and he was the eldest. He had his own thing, and since I think my dad, even though he wished that I was interested in diesel injection pumps in the 70s, I wasn't. I was clearly interested in theater. He couldn't really say anything, and in that respect, I loved him for that. But my mother was like supporting me with every audition that I wanted. There was a time when I was very busy in high school, and I thought I want to be in a professional play, and I guess so. I auditioned for Cats the musical, which were it will clearly affect my studies because this was a professional play, uh, being paid. I'm gonna get paid, and I will be with professional actors and singers and dancers. And I was 16, and I was cast. Oh no, I was 18, and I was cast to my first professional musical play, and everybody else was younger, was older than me. But my studies were dwindling. But I guess they were not. They're not the type of parents who would like tell me what to do. I think my parents were a little bit. I guess they grew up with parents who were like that because they were the baby boomers. They were born during the war, 44 and 42. So that was like, these my parents grew up wanting to be free also from the way their parents were brought them up, the way their parents were not communicative. They wanted to be different, but they had their own trauma as a child, being brought up by parents who were a certain way. And then so my parents were pretty. I knew that some parents from my classmates that were very strict, but my parents were not strict. My parents gave me the freedom to be who I am.
I love that. That's beautiful. That's awesome. So, growing up in the Philippines and this westernized culture. When I asked my mom, who grew up in the Philippines, went to school and everything, there, um, she was taught a lot of American history, which I was like, "Are you serious?" I couldn't believe that
Yeah.
because I want to know, as you know, you and I've talked. I have a Lapu Lapu script, and I'm was doing research. I want to learn all about our culture, and so I've had to dig on my own. And because when I've asked her, she couldn't really tell me a lot because and during her time, it was a lot of American history, westernized upbringing in the Philippines, which I just was like, I couldn't understand that. What was it like for you growing up uh, in the Philippines? And learning history, just learning about the ways of the world and uh, colonization, which I'm sure you are, and because I've talked to other Philippines that did get like Philippine history, where from Lapu Lapu and the Spaniards, the long Spaniard occupation, and then the West. What was it like growing up Filipino, growing up with the way and learning the ways of the world, as it were?
I guess it's. I think each individual will have a different experience with that. It's very hard to generalize. To tell you honestly, I had no interest with history in high school and college.
Yeah,
My interest in history just sparked when I turned 50, because I realized that because there's so much information out there. And I sort of like knew, maybe I had an inkling that anything that was passed on, or the books that were available during the 80s and 90s that were passed on through schools, throughout the, whether private or public schools, were where somebody else wrote that and that was their point of view.
Yeah.
And then and this was instilled, and it's a construct that's been passed on by I mean, whenever I guess I could tell a story about how much when I was 26 and I moved to Germany for joining a musical phenomena, which was Miss Saigon in the early 80s and 90s. And that was my first time to really integrate with an international company. And of course, being able to spend a lot of time with Americans and get to know them and integrate and then having them as good friends. And Filipinos will always associate with Americans. So, oh yeah, we know about this. Oh, Americans are like this. Oh, we know the history there. But none of them really knew about anything about the Philippines. It's a big thing. Sometimes it's a big thing for each Filipino when some American said this and said this and that, or published this and that. It's a big thing that could create a stir in the country. But a stir from the Philippines does not mean moving anybody in the US. That's the difference. It may be big. Like, let's see how big it is. Okay, let's put an example, and I hope I'm still answering your question. Yeah. Miss Universe Philippines from the Philippines win, and that's such a huge. Every Filipino celebrates that.
Yeah.
Because it's an aspiration, and some Filipino will have a better life.
Yeah.
You go to America and Miss Universe is not really a big thing.
Yeah.
And I'm not. It's not because I'm not saying I'm pinpointing. Oh, it's what America doesn't mind that, but it's because there's a lot of things to think about, not just Miss Universe.
Oh, no, totally. It's so complicated, and that's what that's. I think we're still figuring ourselves out as Filipinos and Philams and just the world and how we sit, and just I think the history of the Philippines is just so complicated because of all of the colonization that has happened throughout the years.
Yeah. As I told you, I respond. I'm not putting the establishment down. I'm just saying the reality is you ask every American if they know about it, and they don't. But getting back to our conversation earlier before we started, I said it's our response. What I wanted to explain to you was that it's our responsibility as a filmmaker or if somebody who makes documentary, is to tease out the history that were irrelevant, and tease out the truth that happened to our country and how we were formed, whether we are Asian Americans or Filipino Americans. It's really, I've gotten to this point since you were talking about being Filipino and stuff. I mean, I think from the last episode we did, I kind of explained to you that I became more Filipino when I was living outside the country, when I was living in Germany. But coming back again, now into the 21st century, it's not more, I'm trying not to be so, this is my color, I'm really, what I want to be more is that we should be more aware that what will break through the glass ceiling is not a race, is not the race, a type of race that you come from. It's not because you're Filipino, you're American, or this, or it's because you are skilled. It's because of your.
Yeah, I agree completely on that. Yeah,
it is really. If we keep on saying because we're this, we're that. Yeah. But we're all the same, really. I mean, we're all.
I would like to. Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think romantically, we would love to just for that to be that. Of course, that we're all this, But I think in order to get there, to find that, we have to confront the past
Oh
and
yeah. Okay.
yeah,
I agree with you there, and
yeah,
that's why the confrontation is really, you know, teasing out those things that were irrelevant, and
exactly,
especially if it's archived by somebody who's white, you know,
exactly, yeah,
and
yeah,
because these were well, they were the ones who, well, the biggest gift that the American people brought to the Philippines is really education, the education system,
yeah,
and fortunately and unfortunately, the the books that we were using were written by, you know, were passed on to generations that were passed on from who that came from the US or
yeah,
from American soil, and it's a point of view of an Anglican point of view.
yeah.
So it is now our time to find, not rewrite, not revision, but, you know, tease it out. What's the truth?
Exactly.
And
And that's what I'm
uh,
talking about. Yeah, that's yeah, yeah. Through all of that, and I'm so fascinated that, and just really saddened. When again, like when I told you I was talking to my mom to tell me to try and get some information, but she couldn't because for obvious reasons. As you said, it was those were the books that were handed to her, and so I'm
yeah,
just
yeah.
kind of
But
curious
now
from your
there's so,
firsthand perspective. Growing
yeah.
up and being educated in that system as
Yeah,
well.
I mean, but there's so much information now. I mean, there's some
Yeah.
American educators who are actually correcting
Beautiful.
historical historical stories that were passed on,
Yeah.
and it's available on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's available on so many social media or websites, and I love it. There's so much, sharing
Yeah.
of education and wisdom.
I love it. All right. So again, that's part of the kind of the series of questions I have about just growing up and learning our people, learning ourselves and our culture. But again, you have this passion for the arts. Let's talk about you're taking this training. You're actually working in theater and cats. Well, cats. I don't know if was that still in high school, but let's get into like we're now in school, we're getting actual
Oh,
training and all that, and then leading into college, and then before you leave out at 27 to Germany for Miss Saigon. Let's get to that point.
Yeah, I continued with my passion, meaning I was also moving from one school to another because I was being either kicked out or
Kicked out? Were
I
you a
think
bad boy?
partly yes.
young
Anyway,
young guy experimenting, not knowing, learning your way.
yeah, it's just learning my way. I've made my peace with people that I've encountered some sort of like when you're young, I guess uh it's as I told you, it's either you get bullied or you bully. That was how it was to survive, and I was also very not comfortable with my own skin when I was younger, and the only way I knew how to defend myself is also choose violence. But going forward, I made peace with that, and I've spoken. It's all water under the bridge with a lot of my good friends, and uh, uh, but I followed my passion as I was going to continue with my conversation with theater, meaning I was auditioning with plays. I wanted to be considered as a serious uh, actor. I solely used. I wanted to be in theater because there was no way I was going to be in the movies. When I was growing up, movies from the Philippines, all the actors were all fairly white Filipino, always mestizo, always. Yeah, I just didn't imagine myself. I just couldn't imagine myself that I would be in the movies. So I followed my passion in theater. I said I'm going to do musical theater until I get cast. I always audition, get into the industry. I started to do perform in bands. I started to perform and finally get partly into showbiz because I became a personal manager of a actor while I was still doing theater. And I thought, oh, okay, so now this is showbiz and I'm supporting somebody who's in showbiz and an assistant of an actor, a personal manager, and I'm scheduling his schedule and scheduling his many activities. And so I was sort of like finding my way, and I knew I was sort of, I guess there was a time when I was very confident and because of my experience in theater, and I finally landed on television in the 90s, 1990, 1992, 1993. I auditioned I auditioned for Johnny Manahan of ABS-CBN, and I was cast for at Awit Titik ATP BP, Awit Titik Bilang na Pambata, which is an educational TV show for children in the 90s. And finally, I got a role that I was a doctor in the it's a daily show for children, and I was doing things and I was earning money from that opportunity. And I was very happy, and I was getting noticed. I was getting being asked to guest in a TV show called Mel and Jay. It was very famous in the 90s. It's a talk show. So I sort of like knew that, oh, I think I'm getting noticed because people are inviting me to their show. And then I was very happy in my place, and I was getting gigs, and I was sort of like interweaved in the industry, not there, but people, I was being welcomed by the community. But that was the time too, as a turning point, that I said, oh, will I stick to this, or will I do something that's international? I can stay in this small pond. I can stay in the pond, this bubble where I'm being supported, and I may make it big, or do I try out the bigger pond, which is just being an ensemble in Miss Saigon. I didn't even dream of becoming an engineer or the lead role. I said just not the role, but being able to live outside the Philippines, pay the taxes in that country, and integrate into the society. That was the opportunity that I was looking for. And I chose to do the latter because how else am I going to grow my soul if I just stay in that bubble?
Have you ever left the Philippines before?
Maybe for a few visits.
Okay.
Outside, not the US, but definitely touring countries in the Southeast Asia, in Japan and Singapore, and for musical plays. Yes.
So you really wanted, but this kind of also gave you that opportunity to live outside.
This was Europe. This wasn't Asia. This was Europe. So it was Miss Saigon, and I was going to live in Europe.
Give you just a whole new life experience. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
I don't even I didn't even know how to pay my tax back home. I was 21. I didn't know how to live on my own. I didn't know how to cook on my own. I didn't even know how to prepare coffee for myself. You know what I'm saying? This is, everything happened in Europe for me. That was my PhD. The integration into the society, learning how to speak in German. It's just life. People from different, all the music, all the talented people in one theater group from parts of Australia to Europe, to America, Asia, Philams, Canadian Filipinos, and they're just all there in one bubble called Miss Saigon in Germany. And I stayed there for 5 years, and I had my residency, and I continued to live there for 8 years. And then I said that was already the beginning of the 2000. Nobody knew what was going to happen, this Y2K was going to happen.
Yeah.
Right. And I said, wow, I said, am I going to be in Europe or am I going back? Have I made a full circle?
Uh,
And I said, no, if I stay on in Europe, I've got my residency, I can apply for my German citizenship. And I asked myself, am I going to be happy in Germany with my aging parents across the pond and, continue going provided by the German government and, live there? And I had a panic attack. And I can share this to you. I really had a panic attack because my mind was already in the Philippines, but my physical body was in Germany and I was grounded in Germany and the show was closing. And then I had an opportunity to move to Berlin, but and I said, I tried it out. I got my residency.
yeah.
And then because the show stopped, the German government actually provided Arbeitslosengeld, which is Geld is money. It's you get 30% of your payment because you lost your job.
Yeah.
So practically, it's frowned upon to receive that payment, but I thought I earned it,
Yeah.
and I tried to live in with that money on my own without finding any kind of work. Well, I did model. I modeled for a little bit outside, and did some uh, promotion for clubs. But it was a rabbit hole for me. That was year 2000. A lot of things. Drugs were involved. I was young. I was,
Yeah.
kind of crazy. I was crazy.
Yeah.
Life was so uncertain.
Yeah.
I didn't want to leave Germany, but
Were you homesick?
I was freaking homesick.
Yeah.
I wanted to be dirty again. I don't know how that makes sense. Dirty in sense of like the grit of living in the Philippines, the grit of coming out and the challenge of finding public transportation because it's not provided for you, the grit of the hardship of getting a taxi cab and hailing a
Mm.
cab to get from one place to another, the grit of passion to live and to fight for something. That was something that I
Mm.
was looking for.
No, I feel
So
that. That's hardcore.
yeah, and definitely that Manila had that. The Philippines had that in that industry. When I came back to Manila, nobody knew me.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not because I'm not. I already knew that I'm not going to be one of those people who did Miss Saigon and come back and say, "Hey, I did this. Look
Yeah.
at me now." I started from zero. I decided to give up my residency, and I said, "I'm going to go back." And I started from zero. All the friends that I sort of like knew me when I was starting uh, had other things to think about. My friends outgrew me. Some friends outgrew me. I was trying to find my way. I was excited. I was trying to bring Europe in Manila, bring the club scene in Manila, and obviously, I mean, I asked people in the street and whenever I'm out on the weekend and said, "Hey, where's the party?" And they would, some people would tell me, "In your head, guy, in your head." And
Yeah.
I was so happy. I was so invigorated of the experience in Europe that I wanted to share that energy. But living in the Philippines is not like that.
Yeah.
I can't be too elated because they don't live like that.
Yeah.
And you need to be able to, you know, I was like sometimes, I was very aware of that too. Like, I can't walk down the streets and get really, really, with my fancy shirt and fancy clothes because it doesn't fit in the Philippines. You have to be more relaxed because if you do that, you're really calling attention to yourself. So also I was changing mentally. I was changing that I just I was already in a world where there's a lot of attention on me. I wanted to take a back seat and see it from a different angle.
Yeah.
And I find it I found it hard to get into and to get integrated. It was harder for me to get integrated back into the industry here.
Wow.
So I had 8 years of staying here. Also, I did a tour of the UK, Miss Saigon, as my last ditch to the international experience.
Mm-hmm.
Did a couple of years or 1 year and a half of that. Came back here. 8 years was null, like drought. Probably the saddest time in my life. But in those 8 years was then I found the grit that I was looking for, the passion that I was looking for,
Yeah.
because that's when I started to work with students who were making their thesis for film. Kids were coming to me and asking me, "Do you want to make our thesis for our film in school?" And I said, "Yes, I want to be in film. Yes, I'll do it for this amount. Yes, I want to be in camera. Yes, I have a skill." And Cinemalaya was starting, and I was auditioning for Cinemalaya.
Yeah.
Cinemalaya was an opportunity for a lot of independent actors. Mainstream actors were not joining Cinemalaya actors. And I sort of like enjoyed that. Oh, this is our turf now. This is independent film. This is not, you don't have to be a certain way to be cast in a film.
Yeah.
And people
Like
are
we were saying earlier. Yeah.
yeah, and I said this is it. This is where I belong. And by I think by 2010, I was able to create an actor's reel, just a 2-minute thing or a 3-minute thing of all the independent work that I've done, and I was getting confident in front of the camera.
Yeah.
I wasn't. I'm not gonna say I was the best, but I said, "Oh, okay, I know the camera. You're my friend." And, I think I did that. I made a decision that this was going to be where I wanted to be. So that was, I think I've saved enough money and support from other people to decide to go to the National Institute of Dramatic Arts in Sydney. And then I realized that I needed $22,000, Australian dollars, to get a full course. And I said, I don't have that, because if you live in Sydney, you need that money, you need to be able to find your own boarding house too. And I said, that's a loss. I think this is not going to happen. And a friend of mine from Sydney offered to take me in his place, John Robertson, who was a very, very good friend of ours from the Miss Saigon company. And he offered this place that I could stay there for a couple of months.
Oh,
and
wow.
For a couple of months is good, because that's about the length of the course that I could afford to take, and it's during winter. So the winter course is only a peak, is only an express to, I guess it's a shorter course if you cannot afford the masters, the MBA. MFA, sorry, MFA. And I said, well, I'll take this as an opportunity, as a fellowship. It will be some sort of like a fellowship to cap my interest into the arts. And boy, the education for that was such an eye opener for me, because the things that I sort of like knew about theater all of a sudden were stamped. I suddenly said, "Oh, I'm really interested." I hope that for myself when I wanted to take college, because if if there was an opportunity to travel outside and go to NIDA or go to, to school in the US, I could have, but this was enough for me at that point in 2010. And, the course just provided me with all the information. I was a young student again, although when I was already older, and I came back to the Philippines and very happy and very, very well informed about the industry it also provided the screen acting course for me. So I was working on camera in Sydney. So when I came back, just being positive and just being in the industry, some friend, Celine Lopez, just rang me and said, "Oh, there's some British guy who wanted to sit down with you if you want to audition for a role in his film. He's nominated. He has a short that has been nominated for the Academy Awards." And by that time, I'm said like, "Bring it on." Yeah, I know how to do this. I know that. Let's have coffee.
Confidence.
Yeah. I wasn't too much into the internet yet. That was 2011. Hardly on Facebook kind of phase. No research on who this director was. Couldn't find his reels. His name was Sean Ellis, and I sat down with him in a cafe one afternoon. And I said, "So what are you looking for? Blah, blah, blah. I could be your point person." I told him, "I could be your point person. I could cast this, and I could because I know this industry. I know all the actors here. I'm 45 years old. So just tell me what you need." So I was casting in my mind, for Oscar Ramirez, I'm going to call this person. I'm going to call this person. If you need a gaffer, I can connect you to a line producer, blah, blah, blah. I was very, very, let's say, well versed for any, I was sort of like a typical Filipino who's going to be like your tourism guy, a tour guide.
Yeah.
And I was like letting him in there, and I read for him. So I was the reader. He hired me to be the reader for the roles, meaning I was behind the camera reading for the potential actors who were auditioning, right?
Yeah.
So that's what was happening. And then a week after, he asked me, do you want to be in a journey with me? I said, "What do you mean?" "I want you to take Oscar Ramirez's role." And I'm like, "This is the lead role for Metro Manila." And I said, "Are you kidding me?" I mean, I was actually casting a different person for this.
Yeah.
I said, nobody in my country would cast me as a farmer or a security guard. Not for anything, but because I came from, they know me in this industry. I'm very different from Oscar. And I think people would also get thrown that, that personality is different. Yes, it is different because I'm an actor. What you see here being interviewed is probably the closest thing, an iota of who I am. There's so much more, and what you see on screen is very different.
Oh yeah.
I know that I could play that role. I know that I could do any other kind of role, but it's always the eye of the caster who will think, "No, Jake is not for that."
Yeah.
And because Sean doesn't know me from Adam, he saw something, and I said, "You are the farmer. You are the security guy." I said, "Really? Really?" I could not believe it. I wasn't even thinking that, this is going to be an international film or this is going to be an Oscar. No, nothing like that. We had a month in December of 2010. That was almost that's a decade ago. Yeah. And, we had a skeleton crew. Skeleton crew is like how it is now during the pandemic. The lesser, the better. Yeah. So we're like 8 people who drove up to Baguio and said, "Let's shoot this. 15 days here in the northern part of Baguio, northern part of the Philippines, then come back to Manila to do the other shots. I cast, I called my theater friends, to audition. So I knew everybody who was going to be in the cast is people that I've worked with and are, I'm so confident that I was so happy that they're all theater people because they were never given the chance. That was in 2010 for me, some theater actors were joining the film industry, but it's a separate thing. Mainstream actors are very different. Some main actors in the Philippines don't even know that they don't even watch the independent actors because they're just different. They're made some okay, but and that was it. Metro Manila was what it opened the doors for me, not only because of that, just the opportunity to be meeting more people who are like-minded people who support and celebrate cinema. So I'm talking about behind I cannot thank Sean Ellis more than that opportunity just to see me and being cast that way. And since then, the opportunities are still there. I still, yeah, that's it. I mean, I'm
It was life changing. It was life changing
it was
because
life
as
changing.
you've been in theater, as we said from the beginning, as a kid, high school, then you left to Germany, all of that, and as you said earlier, it was like a dream in regards to the film side, but just it was a different type that I know as well. Like I'm typecast all the time, I'm not the right shade. I'm not brown enough. I'm not Asian enough. I'm not white enough. And so when things like this happen, so shout out to Sean Ellis, right? That gave you that opportunity and saw the real you. That's so amazing and so beautiful to have that person that believes in you, and just kind of changes things. What would you say from that transition from like theater and film, or just above all as a creative, or some of the biggest lessons that helped you along the way that maybe took you a while to learn, that for the young actor that's watching this right now, would you say were big for you and that you would impart to them?
I think people should just relax because nobody else knows what they're doing.
It's true.
I mean, in reality,
we're all kind of winging it.
don't try. I don't know what I'm doing. I've come to this point. In this industry as well. I think be wary of not take. I think you should just really. I really think you shouldn't really take yourself too seriously because I think you should be serious about your craft, but your positioning in the craft should be at the back because people always celebrate you when you win, and once you lose, people also are leave fastest way to get out of there. And that's why I'm sort of like I've experienced that. There was a time when Manila was big. Things change always. We talk about the past and I am grateful about that. And somehow it's brought to the future in our conversation now because of that experience. But I'm not going to hang on those laurels to think that, I'm such a, I've done this, because in reality, we just really move on. We're like water. We need to be able to say thank you and just move on because there's still so many opportunities for us. And I'm not going to be one of those, I am 55 and I'm looking forward to the future. There's things that I'm excited about now, recently there was a, oh yeah, I was gonna share a small something that could brighten anyone's day if you're really in this industry. You think that sometimes people don't watch your work or don't know anything about you, and then all of a sudden there's a maybe like a website or something, Screen Rant suddenly writes about you and then casts you in their they have a cast theory,
Yeah.
and then you come upon it and watch it and read it and you say, wow, how do they even think about that? And I'm like, I'm thrilled with those things. Well, I guess what I'm saying too is like, just when you think that, that you're not there,
Mm.
because we're so interconnected,
Yeah.
your work reverberates throughout the world, or throughout the web wide world,
Yeah.
and or your energy reverberates everywhere, and then some kid somewhere have seen your work and writes about you and
Yeah.
gives an honor. I mean, it's amazing. The award is just being able to accept the things that you have,
Yeah.
and to come to a point to understand where you are at this in your life.
I love
The
that.
award is also the work.
Yes. Yeah.
It's never about this or your social media account or your millions of followers. The award is the work they're actually doing. Do you
Yeah.
just keep on moving?
I dig that. What do you want to do more with this craft? Like, what are there any like ideal roles are you looking forward to in the future, or one that you how do you want to you've been challenging yourself here and there. How would you like to challenge yourself more in the future? Like, are you looking like other? You're an actor. Are you? Have you thought about writing, like, or directing? Just other avenues in exploring your creative side.
Yes, I've thought about that. For an instance, I don't want to say I ruminate on it or I
Yeah.
wallow on it. I do. I think if I get into directing, I will be more of an actor's director, and then I will have to be have a tight relationship with my DP or my director of photography, or my tight relationship with the cinematographer, because there are technical aspects of directing that I don't have. I may have the vision, but I really need somebody to work with in that department. But I'm excited about what the opportunity is for me as an actor, even if I'm an offshore actor, meaning I'm not in the hub of, let's say, Hollywood or Bollywood or wherever. I'm excited I'm excited about small things like self tapes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm recent. I'm ex- oh just being able to collaborate with people are the things that excite me. Meaning, in the past 2 years, there are projects in the not shelved but always in talks of pitching, and always sitting down with possible directors that I want to work with.
Mm.
I love that every time I go in your part of the world, if I go to the in LA, that I get to sit down with like-minded people who are filmmakers. You develop that relationship,
Yeah.
because as I told you, this is a relationship-based relationship. Your coffee that time may be nothing, but it may be something someday. I always say that you engage and you invest in people that celebrate you,
Yes.
because that's the only, and you lift each other up, because someday it's very easy to just say, oh, I want to work with this person, maybe we can do something together.
Mhm.
And that has always been the formula.
Yeah.
I don't know if I answered or diverted with your, but I think I guess in a way, that is the answer. Is that there is no concrete thing that I'm actually doing, but I'm doing a lot of small things.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. Does that make sense,
Yeah, yeah, no,
Patrick?
I feel you. I feel you. I was just curious, what more do you want to do as a creative? Like, is theater now out of the picture? Because it seemed like when
Uh,
you made that transition into film, theater kind of
no,
just went away.
it's never ever gonna be out of the picture. If
Okay.
you wanted like a concrete answer, well, yes, that's pretty much concrete in terms of how what I really want. I
Yeah.
always want to be able to collaborate with like-minded people and filmmakers from all over the world. That's concrete. But in terms of creativity, that will be always something to work with the film industry.
Mm.
And I'd love to be able to bag a TV series again.
Yeah.
I'd love to be able to work with creative directors from all over the world,
Mm.
and always choosing a movie or a cinema that has a message that is close to my heart.
I love
And
that.
of course, theater will always be there. That's why I always say I don't have, because there's no in-person activity yet in the Philippines
Yeah.
in terms of theater and teaching yoga. So I guess that will be shelved. But if there's a fantastic Chekhov play again, adapted play, I like adapted plays now for some reason.
Yeah. I was curious
That
what kind of genres you're into as well. Like musicals, or even or film wise, like horror, sci-fi. Like what kind of themes do you like to play around with as an actor?
I I actually can give you a diverse answer with that. I could do anything as an actor, to be
Yeah,
honest.
yeah, of course.
I do, but I really this may be come as a surprise, but I really love action films.
Okay, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Uh,
Like, of course, we as actors, we want all kinds of work, but there's certain things, genres that we love to
yeah,
play with. You know what I'm saying? As an actor,
kind of like
play
that.
with the character.
Yeah, but never. I never want to box myself and saying, "I just want to do this."
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I'd like to be able to be malleable as an actor.
yeah.
And
I
but
love
in
that.
terms of like the themes, it's really almost anything that's that's like authentic and real is something that sparks me.
Yeah,
You know,
I
yeah.
feel that. Yeah, and if it has a message like you were saying that sits with you and that you feel that it's always good to get that and be involved with to get that to the vision that you see within that. I love that.
And also, I think as I get older and into my senior years, I really get more grounded. I think as an actor, the responsibility is not. Of course, you've got the skill, but
Yeah.
the life skill
Yes.
that you experience are the things that you will be able to bring into your skill as an actor. So
Yeah.
living your life and searching for your authenticity, being comfortable in your own skin, and just knowing your truth, your fallibility, your folly, your weaknesses, your strength, your stupidity,
Yeah.
your foolishness. These are the things that life offers you to be able to bring into the screen. So take it in stride, right?
There we go. I love that. So I think that's a great way to take it into my last question, Jake. Because I am the NRW, Nerds Rule the World, Nerds of Color. We like to end it off with like a nerd TED style talk question. If you were to give a TED talk,
Oh yeah.
something that you're very nerdy about or passionate about, what is something that somebody doesn't know about you that you could give like a TED style talk on? Something that you're passionate about outside of the stuff we obviously know. We know you're theater acting. We know that about you. What is something else that we wouldn't exactly know about you that you could give a TED style talk on?
You caught me at the moment, so I really don't want to think too further on and too fantastical about something that I could talk to, but perhaps I could share something that happened to me recently, and then we can discuss about chronic pain that
Ah,
that really is a lot of people are inflicted with.
yeah,
So pain that's something that you go through daily,
yeah,
and I could do a TED talk about chronic pain in an instant because of my experience recently with an inflamed vein. And I thought
mm.
I'm just gonna give a short TED talk.
Okay,
No,
yeah,
no, it's very short. So I went to LA before I flew. I had my first flu shot ever. It's a flu jab, and I just wanted to be more protected before I fly.
yeah,
So it was my first time. I've never done it before, and throughout the whole festivities, my left arm my, was sort of like it had like a current of electricity from here all the way to the tip of my finger, the
yeah,
middle finger. And I thought, what's going on? I mean, what is this? I keep on moving. You know, it got so bad that in one of the festivities in the LA Asian Pacific Festival, I walked out through an urgent care. I went to the urgent care because I thought this needs urgent care because
yeah,
I don't I have no idea what this is all about. And I was filling up the form. I'm not an American citizen, but I have my insurance, blah 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 blah. And then while I was filling up my form, people were coming in, coughing and sneezing, and I thought this might not be a good place for me to sign a fill a form because I don't know who people might be sick of something,
yeah,
so I started to talk to the nurse and say, "Oh, I'm gonna come back because this is not a good time because I've got work outside. This is just across the Japan Theater
yeah,
cultural center." So I walked there. I walked back and I went to a pharmacist and they gave me a arthritis 800 milligrams ibuprofen. And I thought, me arthritis? No way. But anyway, fast forward, it got so bad. I went back home and I kept talking about this to all my friends. I said, what's going on with my left arm? It must be the jab. It must be the flu shot. Maybe because it's a dead virus that they're injecting on you, and this is the result, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, fast forward, I came back here. I did some therapy. I went as close to ask my family doctors. I asked my orthopedist what's going on. I asked the chiropractor what's going on. I had my X-ray, and they were able to pinpoint what was happening because in my skull there's the atlas that holds the skull, and then there's C1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, the vertebra.
yeah.
So in between that, the C4 and 5 is a bone spur, meaning there's a growth. So that's what you call the neck arthritis. So
Oh,
what is this? Why am I discussing this now? Because chronic pain, is this something that I have to live with?
oh, really?
Because if there is some sort of like sensitivity in my arm, does it debilitate? Is it a disability now that I have this current electricity? And I'm going to therapy and I'm slowly being healed.
Yeah,
But I'm just saying, that's why it's easy for me to talk about this because as you get older, things change and then you live with it, whether it's a
yeah,
disease or not.
yeah,
So uh, I just wanted to always speak about my truth. There's something that changes in our bodies as we get older. I'm not scared to talk about the changes that are happening to me because this thing that's happening to me
yeah,
now is what will carry me through to teach in my yoga classes. Do
yeah,
you stop? No, you don't stop because you're using this ability you're using this ability,
yeah,
meaning the ability to be able to move your body into an in breath to go on into the now.
No, Jake, I'm gonna tell you a crazy story now, real quick, before we even leave out of here, because you just reminded me of something. I love that, and I'm thankful that you shared that because it's so very important. I'm getting older. I feel different things in a lot of different ways, you know, and I think it's important because I think it's very as men, you know, it's known that we as men think we're super strong, we're Superman, nothing affects us, you know, that we'll be, you know, we can handle everything. And I know I'm guilty of the facts that, you know, my wife is like, go to the hospital, you know, go see a doctor. And I'm like, nah, I'll be all right. And I've got to learn to know I need to go check it out, you know, because sometimes you left stuff linger, you create an even bigger problem. And so it's funny that you mentioned that. And I'm again thankful that you said that right before we recorded this interview today. My interview right before this, Lawrence Iriarte, he knows you. I think you met him when you were at the film festival in LA. He's with
Okay.
Olympia with a Vengeance.
Oh, I see. Yes,
he was the editor and art director.
Oh, yes, I met him.
Yes.
Yes.
Great guy. And earlier this year, when we were hyping up Olympia with a Vengeance, he suffered a stroke. And as an actor, as a artist, you know, that's his passion, you know, that was life-changing for him. And he's since earlier this year, and I think it was January that he suffered the stroke, he's been through therapy, and they told him that he wasn't going to be able to draw again. And part of his therapy became art therapy, and he's now able to draw again. He's now able to have a lot more function. And you had a chance to meet him at the film festival. So but earlier this year, he wasn't able to even walk. He got to this point. So I'm so happy that he and I finally had this conversation. We've kind of been had convos through mutual friends, but now he's now on the road recovery, and you were able to meet him at the film festival. But we were just talking about paying attention to your body, listening to those signs, because he was driving when he suffered his stroke. And I think it's very important as men, and especially as we get older, to listen to those signs. And so I think that's just a great way to end this.
It is because just to cap that, I mean, I thought when I wanted to trade my phone in the Apple, and I was like lining up, somebody came up to me and asked me if are you getting a stroke? Because I would keep on moving my left arm. And I said, and that really like sort of like, wow, am I getting a stroke now and I won't be able to do this? And I'm experiencing this festival now, and I'm in the US, I'm away from my family. And I thought there's so many things that could like, really affect you mentally. But there's, as you said, you need to be able to listen to your body. As you listen to your body, it tells you what to do. And the thing is, the opportunity to nourish and to heal ourselves are also possible.
Yes.
It's also possible, but you need to be able to, you know, zero in and focus and listen to what your body's telling you. These are signs that you need to look out for. You know, if it's chronic pain, then there's something in your everyday life that you're doing that you might want to change. I'm not telling you what that is, but it could be something as, you know, just having a puff of cigarette every day. You know what I'm saying? It could be easy, as simple as that. Just to change that a little bit. And then the effect will be, you know, changing also every single time. So whoever is suffering, and if you're listening to this and you came across this, we're not experts. We are just sharing our experience with this. If there's something that you want to correct us with, let us know. But in my experience, listening to your body, you know, our body really gives us signs, and we should listen to them.
Exactly. Jake, again, I can't thank you enough for our friendship virtually thus far. I can't wait for us to meet, hopefully in person. That would be amazing. But you are an inspiration, and you are just a good soul. I feel that energy and that vibe from you. And I thank you for Metro Manila, for the Monsters Without, this conversation, this inspiration, and what you're doing for the rest of our people around the world. Arka Babayan. Last thing before we get up out of here, how can the people reach out to you, and especially if they aren't fans that are fans now after hearing this amazing interview with you? How can they reach out to you and follow you online?
Well, there's always Instagram is Jake with a dot Macapagal, Macapagal. That's Instagram, and then you can follow me on my Facebook page. That is Facebook Jake Pro Mac. The Pro is really Protasio Macapagal. It's not Pro like Mac Pro, but always Jake. Jake. It's really my initials. Jake Pro Mac. Okay, that's a. Oh, just search Jake Macapagal page. You're gonna find it. And thanks for supporting. Thanks for supporting me. Thank you. And wait, before you say Patrick, Kuya P, I just want to encourage you. Thank you for celebrating Filipinos. Thank you for celebrating individuals, creators, creatives. I think you're doing a great job. Thanks for putting our conversations forward. Your relentless energy and superfluous personality online is amazing, and you're helping more people than you think you are. So I just want to encourage you. You're doing a great job, and thank you once again.
Maraming salamat. I know very little Tagalog, but I know that. I'm honored and I'm humbled by your words, Jake, and that just gives me the energy to continue to do what I do. And so I cannot thank you enough again. And I value this friendship as well. Thank you so much, Jake.
Thanks, Patrick.
I just thank you. Everybody, Jake Macapagal, please give him a follow. Let's support him and give him love and light as he continues to write his story. This is just a snapshot right now of of his story this far. Jake's going to build.
Yeah. That's great.
I want to have him here to celebrate those wins. As you continue to build your story, Jake, please come back. Let's write this story again and update it. But you are an amazing soul. So Jake Macapagal will be back, y'all. We'll have him back. He's still writing that story. Again, thank you for me, the legend Kuya P on Twitter, TikTok, and IG, the Nerds of Color, ShoPowSho, and of course the NRW net at New Release Wednesday, where nerds rule the world. Another great episode with the amazing Jake Macapagal. ShoPowSho, mahal kita, salamat. Until next time.
Salamat.
All right.
Hi, my name is Jake Macapagal, and I am inviting you to have an intimate conversation with Kuya P or patrick.strange. If you want to get a little bit of inquiry or a little bit of candid conversation and get to know a little bit about me, come join us at the ShoPowSho. Hi, my name is Jake Macapagal, and today I'm going to discuss to you what my Filipino heritage means to me. It means my breath, my life, my relationships around the world. It is who I am. My ancestors have passed on something that is within me, within my reach, my every decision, my every step. I take it with me wherever I go. That's what it means. Kind of like meditative, huh?
Oh, thank you. It's very therapeutic, honestly. Straight up. When you go back, I'm sure I don't know if you go to therapy or have a therapist. I go to therapy. It's like a therapy session, and it just shows how we're all really all connected, and that we all go through the same struggles and successes, but we just keep building, and it's so beautiful. And thank
Oh
you
no,
for
no,
opening and sharing with me on that.
totally I was like in a, his. I went to therapy. I felt like I went to therapy. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, vice versa. As much as it rewards you, it rewards me, and